How's it going, you fantastic people? I'm Jake the Ashen Hollow, and welcome to The Story So Far, the video series where we summarize the story of a game to get you all caught up on the narrative and prepared for the next installment. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Metro series. Now keep in mind that while the Metro series is based off of the novels written by Dmitry Glukhovsky, please dear God forgive me because I know I had to pronounce that incorrectly, but either way, we're going to be referencing only what happens in the games and not in the books. But if you do enjoy the story, I definitely recommend giving the books a read. They're pretty damn awesome. And real quick, if you do enjoy video games and the stories they tell, you should consider clicking the subscribe button and the notification bell to get notified of when I put out more stories. Anyway, comrades, let's jump into Metro.
That was a f***ing terrible Russian accent.
Our story takes place in Russia in 2033, many years after nuclear detonations left humanity on the brink of extinction, and the surface of the Earth mostly uninhabitable. Humanity has been forced to set up their civilizations underground, inside the vast network of metro stations and tunnels beneath Moscow. Of course, when we talk nuclear radiation, we've got to talk about mutants, in which there are a plethora of different mutant species that pose a huge risk to the remaining human population. The story follows 20-year-old Artyom, who lives in a station called Exhibition with his adopted father, Alex. Artyom wakes up in his room with Alex bidding him to come with him. His friend Hunter is arriving at the station today, and he wants Artyom to meet him. They make their way to the front gate, and as they do, they pass through the hospital ward, which they see is at capacity with wounded men who apparently just fought against a newly found species of mutants called the Dark Ones, that have psychic powers and use them to assault the mind and could be behind the recent rise of mutant attacks on Exhibition. Alex tells Artyom that the Dark Ones use fear as a weapon and believes they are the biggest threat to humanity. The two of them finally meet Hunter at the front gate just in time for the station to come under attack by mutants known as Nausalis. The three of them hold off the attack but soon learn that one of the guard posts was broken through, leaving the station vulnerable. Hunter tells Artyom that he is going to go out into the tunnels to try and eliminate the threat. He tells them that if he's not back by tomorrow morning, then he failed in his mission. He gives Artyom a dog tag from around his neck and says that if that is the case, to take that to Polis and show it to a man named Miller, who is a ranger like Hunter, and to tell him what's happened at Exhibition and the threat beyond. He tells Artyom before he leaves that the threat has to be eliminated no matter what. The next morning comes, and it's obvious that Hunter isn't returning. He's presumed dead or missing. So Artyom begins his quest. Getting to Polis, though, will take some time, and he'll have to pass through many different stations, which is both nerve-wracking and exciting for him, as he's never been outside of Exhibition, save for when he was a small child before the nukes fell. He finds a caravan that's headed towards Riga Station, so he joins them in their travels. Along the way, though, the group is assaulted by the psychic powers of the Dark Ones. Artyom is given a strange vision and hears odd noises. He's the first to come to after the assault, and it seems that he's more resilient to it than the others. Either way, Artyom makes it to Riga Station and meets a drifter of sorts named Bourbon. The two agree to travel together and begin to travel towards Polis. There are all kinds of setbacks, of course, and obstacles along the way, because going anywhere in a video game is never straightforward. Along the way as well, Artyom receives another eerie vision from the Dark Ones, of him being sucked down a tunnel before a Dark One reaches out his hand and seemingly pulls Artyom to safety. The traveling duo soon find themselves at a place in which they'll have to traverse across the surface to continue towards their destination. It's the first time Artyom can remember being on the surface. Along the way, the visions and voices Artyom receives almost seem to get stronger, and he can make out the words being said to him. He can stop death and choose life constantly playing in his head. Across the surface, Artyom has to make his way through several mutants, including demons and watchers. The two of them finally make their way back into the metro tunnels and to Dry Station, where Bourbon admits that he has some bad reputation with some of the folks who run the place here, but he believes he can grease their palms enough to get them through. Unfortunately, this does backfire on Bourbon, and before Artyom can save him, he's gunned down. As Artyom makes his escape, he runs into a man named Khan, who is known as a somewhat superstitious, wandering mystic type. Either way, he's a friend and agrees to help Artyom on his way. He takes them through some of the less traveled tunnels to avoid detection. It's here that they have to avoid anomalies and shadows, the ghosts of those who've died and can't pass on, stuck to relive their deaths over and over, which can even become violent to those still alive and nearby. After making it through the tunnels, Khan and Artyom part ways, but Khan tells Artyom to head to the armory station and to find his friend Andrew there, and he'll help him along the way as well. Upon arriving at the armory though, Artyom is captured by communist soldiers, because even though the world has basically ended, humans still have to be fighting against each other. And the two predominant powers here are the Red Line and the Reich, also known as the Communists and the Nazis. But with the help of another unnamed prisoner, Artyom escapes and finds Andrew. Andrew hides Artyom beneath a railcar that's headed to the front line of where the Reds and the Nazis are fighting. From there, Artyom can find a way past towards Polis. Once he gets there though, would you just believe what happens? If you happen to guess that he gets captured by the Nazis this time, well then you'd be correct. Luckily for Artyom though, just as he's about to be executed, two rangers named Pavel and Ulman show up and save the day. Artyom shows them Hunter's dog tags and tells them that he needs to get to Miller. Ulman tells Pavel to take Artyom to Polis and he'll meet up with the two later. So Pavel and Artyom jack an armored railcar and blast their way out of the war zone. Along the way, they're ambushed by Nostalis and Pavel is killed. After more mutants, tunnels, Nazis, and another trip to the surface, amid more visions and whispers along the way of Dark Ones claiming they want to understand and help him, Artyom finally arrives in Polis Station. Artyom finds Miller and tells him everything that happened at Exhibition and with the Dark Ones. Miller presents the case to the Polis Council in order to get aid sent to Exhibition. But after the council deliberates, they decline to help, due to lack of resources and manpower impending the eventual war with the Nazis and Communists. Miller pulls Artyom aside though and tells him there are still those that believe the Dark Ones are the bigger threat, and that he and the Rangers will help him defeat them. He proposes that they find an old secret military facility called D6 and use the missiles there to destroy the surface home of the Dark Ones. But they first must find the lost documents about D6 in order to be able to find its location. So they head to the surface to a grand library in search of the documents, and after making his way through all the threats of being on the surface, Artyom finds the information on D6 that they need, and they all regroup at Sparta, the one and only surface station, where they resupply and prepare to head to D6. Along the way, Artyom experiences more vivid visions of messages proclaiming peace from the Dark Ones, and once the group arrives, they fight their way through the mutant hordes as they make their way through the military base looking for the missile command center. Miller and Artyom head down below to manually power the reactors, and once they've done that, they return to the surface with the missile's guidance system, which they'll have to install on top of Ostankino Tower to launch the missiles. Venturing across the surface, they're met with even more hordes of mutant threats, and when climbing the tower, Miller is injured by a demon, and it's left up to Artyom to get to the top and launch the missiles alone. On top of the tower, Artyom is assailed mentally by the Dark Ones one last time. In this vision, he hears them as they shout, "He's coming to destroy us, he cannot be allowed, destroy him," as the Dark Ones are trying to pull him away from the missile. Artyom hears Hunter's words echoing across the vision as well. "If it's hostile, kill it." He fights through the mental assault and launches the missiles. We see explosions in the distance as the Dark Ones are obliterated in a cloud of flame and smoke. The war had been won, but we hear Artyom wonder if when burning the Dark Ones from the world if they had lost something as well. It just didn't sit quite right with him. Fast forward to 1 year later at the start of the second game, we get a vision of Artyom as a young child with two other children who are sneaking out from the metro and opening up a gate to the surface world underneath the botanical gardens. This memory coincides with another memory of Artyom visiting the same botanical gardens as a younger child with his mother before the nukes fell. We then see Artyom dreaming of being under attack by Dark Ones, and when their forms dissipate, Artyom sees that he's killed his comrades instead, and it still seems that he struggles with the guilt of killing their species off. Artyom then wakes up in his quarters at D6. He's a ranger now and part of the Order. He awakes to see his old friend Khan outside of his door. He tells Artyom that he saw a Dark One in the botanical gardens. He says that bombing them was humanity's worst mistake, and he believes that this last surviving Dark One is the key to humanity's future. He wants Artyom to try to speak to it since he's immune to their control and it was always in some way connected to them. Khan requests that Miller allow Artyom to come with him to find the Dark One, but Miller disagrees and says that Artyom should find it, but he needs to finish what he started and kill the lone survivor. Miller wants Artyom to deal with that while he tries to find out what happened with a ranger named Lesnitsky, who apparently abandoned his post. So Artyom heads to the botanical gardens with another ranger named Anna to find the last Dark One. When Artyom arrives, he finds the surviving Dark One and discovers that it's merely a child. As he goes to grab the child, he's assaulted with visions of the bombing of the Dark Ones, and when he wakes up, he sees the young Dark One caged, and then he realizes he's once again been captured by Nazi forces. Once back at the Reich station, with the help of another prisoner from the Red Army named Pavel, Artyom escapes from the prison, releasing all of the other prisoners the Nazis have captured along the way. Pavel and Artyom fight their way through several Reich outposts and mutant-infested tunnels, and form what appears to be a strong friendship along the way. Pavel tells Artyom once they get back to the Red Line station that he'll be able to pass through to Polis to report what has transpired on his mission. Once at the station of the Red Army, however, it's revealed that Pavel is a high-ranking officer in its army, and he betrays Artyom. Artyom is then interrogated by the Reds about information on the Dark One in D6. They want to capture and take the military station for their own, so they inject him with some sort of truth serum, and it's then that we get a more truthful look at the memory of his childhood, when he and his friends snuck to the surface gardens from the metro. We see young Artyom about to be attacked by a mutant when a Dark One steps in and protects him. When he wakes up, he sees a young man in the process of setting him free. It's the son of one of the Red Army's generals, General Moskvin. His son doesn't agree with the violence that is occurring, or that his father murdered his brother to attain his position. Sneaking out, Artyom discovers that the missing Ranger Lesnitsky is here, and was apparently a Red Army spy all along. He then overhears that Pavel has a lead on the whereabouts of the Dark One and is on his way there. Artyom runs into his old friend Andrew again, and Andrew agrees to help him escape, as well as pass along a message to Miller about what he's learned and that he's going to pursue the lead to find the Dark One. Artyom continues to pursue the Dark One's location and learns that it's in Oktyabrskaya. On his way there, Artyom comes across a group of rangers in an abandoned church on the surface. Included in this group is Anna, who apologizes to Artyom for not helping him when the Nazis captured him, and the two of them begin to seemingly forge a romantic relationship. It's then that Lesnitsky attacks the church and takes Anna hostage and leaves Artyom and the other rangers for dead. Artyom regains consciousness inside the burning church sometime later and makes pace for Oktyabrskaya. Upon arriving there, he sees that the station is ravaged with a strange and contagious disease, and the Red Army is executing anyone infected with it. Artyom fights his way through and manages to save Anna in the process, and after the heroics, the two of them promptly start the intercourse. As you do. After Artyom's done smushing booties with Anna, he finally is successful in finding the young Dark One, and when doing so, he decides that he does not want to kill the creature, and instead saves it from the burning wreckage of the train he found it on. The Dark One soon wakes up and decides to stick with Artyom, and even helps him as he makes his way through mutants and the war-torn metro. Artyom needs to head to Polis, where a peace conference is supposed to take place between the Order, the Red Army, and the Reich, as a means of trying to find a way to forego the coming war. Along the way, Artyom runs into Lesnitsky, and before he kills him, the Dark One shows him his thoughts that reveal that the Red Army was responsible for the virus released at Oktyabrskaya. Artyom also runs into Pavel en route to Polis, and, in an act of mercy, Artyom spares his life. The young Dark One comments on that, saying that he has been shown the meaning of forgiveness and that he will remember it. The Dark One shows Artyom Pavel's thoughts, and it's revealed that the Red Army intends to use the D6 station to release the virus on all of the metro, and that the peace conference is just a distraction for them to attack D6. The young Dark One has the memories of his whole species, and he shows Artyom the memory he kept revisiting of him when he was young and snuck out of the metro to the surface. After being defended by the Dark One, young Artyom claims that he is all alone now, to which the Dark One replied, "You are not alone, you are the first." The young Dark One then reveals to Artyom that on that day he was adopted by the Dark Ones, and it's why he's always been different and why he could withstand their psychic abilities. In another vision, it is revealed that behind a locked door at D6, there are hibernating Dark Ones still alive, and that the young one isn't the last of his kind anymore. Artyom convinces Miller to make a deal with the young Dark One, that he'll open the door at D6 if the Dark One helps them with revealing the truth of the things at the conference, to which they all agree. At the peace conference, General Moskvin is speaking on behalf of the Red Army when the Dark One uses his telepathy to force him to admit to everyone the Red Army's sinister plan. Miller, Artyom, and Khan all rush back to defend D6, while the young Dark One parts ways with Artyom to find his people. Artyom hopes that he'll be able to forgive him for what he did to his people. Back at D6, the Red Army had begun its siege of the facility, and Artyom and the Order are trying their best to hold off the attack. But before long, it's proving that it's an impossible task. It's then that Miller reveals that D6 is rigged to explode, and that the only way to protect it and the people of the Metro is to detonate it. It's then that Artyom and Miller are wounded in a Red Army explosion, and the next we see, the leader of the Red Army, General Corbett, and the rest of his men are gloating over them in victory. While this is happening, Artyom slowly drags his wounded body over to the detonate button on the console, but just as he goes to press it, and just before General Corbett can stop him, the young Dark One appears, and he brought with him the rest of his race. The Dark Ones mentally assault the Red Army and make them start killing each other, and the Metro is yet again saved, and by the Dark Ones no less.
Ullman died, like most of the Spartans. Miller survived and is now in charge of police guards, even though he's confined to a wheelchair. And Khan just disappeared. He once told me, what if this little Dark One is the last of the angels sent to save us? The fact that the little one came back and brought his kin, maybe that was the pardon and salvation. For me, for the Order, for all of us in the Metro. The last light of hope in this kingdom of darkness.
It will be better for everyone if we go away or two. But one day we'll come back. I'll be big then. Goodbye, my friend.
The Dark Ones are gone. But I know we will meet again. Maybe they really were sent to save us. Maybe we did earn forgiveness.
Thanks so much for watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing for more content. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for all the latest news and the sickest tweets. If you want to support this channel even further, consider checking out my Patreon page. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day. Peace 'em out!